You're listening to the Marginally Geeky Show, the epically geeky book club.
Greetings and welcome to the Marginally Geeky Show. I'm your host for the evening, Eugene Stevens. Tonight, I'm joined by quite a few people. We've got quite a few people on tonight, which is should make for an interesting conversation. Lainey has returned. We've got Chris in Canada. Jennifer is here as well. And we have a new member joining us. Mandy, hi, how are you?
Hi.
Before we get started with our normal spiel, as I tweeted and Facebooked out, there is a little bit of controversy with this book. When we decided to read this book, it was quite a while ago. We started reading this book, and after we decided to read it and started reading it, some controversy came out about the author, Aziz Ansari. I put out there whether or not we should discuss it. It was overwhelming that people wanted to hear our opinions on that. So that being said, we will be discussing some of the controversy that's currently surrounding him, but we're going to hold off on that until the end of the book. We're going to go ahead and do our complete review of the book, and then any thoughts that we have on that current situation, we'll give it then. So if you are listening and you don't care about any of that stuff, you just want to hear about the book, no problem there. You can go ahead and listen to pretty much the entire show, and then, like I said, when we get to the end, we'll let you know when we're going to start sharing some opinions, and you can move on from there if you want. So, so with that said, how's everyone been? It's been a little while since we've reconvened for the book show. So, anything happening to anyone they want to share?
Well, busy.
Just been busy. I had last night. I got to do a presentation at the Science and Sangria event that Jennifer puts together. Talked about 3D printing, so that was pretty cool. So
yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, I like that.
Jonathan Cotto wrote the audience was captivated. I'm like, I don't know about captivated, but I think they had a good time. So it was a fun speech. I enjoy talking about 3D printing. So but that being said, a while back we decided that we were going to read Aziz Ansari's Modern Romance. I guess we'll just kind of jump into it. First and foremost, I listened to the book, as I always do. Listen to it on Audible. It was read by Aziz. So we got a little extra. If you listen to the audio version, you got a little extra on there because he literally starts it off by saying, "You lazy bastard. Why aren't you reading this book? Why are you listening to it? You just want me to listen. Your lazy ass wants me to read it to you, huh? Fine, yeah. Whatever."
Ass fox.
Yes, exactly. And which I thought was hilarious. I love whenever an author reads their book, they put extra stuff into it. There's a book we're going to be reading eventually called Crush It. And the guy who wrote it, Gary Vaynerchuk, number one, is just like, he makes coffee nervous. He is that much energy. And he literally goes off topic, in the thing. He's just like, one other thing I got to add. I didn't put it in the book. I got to add in there. So hearing an author really excited about reading their book, I've always enjoyed that. So that being said, we'll just kind of run around first impressions. Lainey, overall, did you enjoy the book?
I really enjoyed this book. In fact, I was a big champion of reading this book early on. I read it a while back, a couple years ago, and really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was kind of a unique look into something that I feel like I see on a regular basis. This is something that's very tailored to kind of my generation, so to speak.
Gotcha.
But I like the voice that he uses to talk about it. I like that he goes about it in a very scientific way. I really, really enjoyed it. I like the viewpoint on it. I like his personal musings on it. I love this book. I think it's great.
Good deal. Chris, what were your overall thoughts?
I really liked it. I enjoy books about relationships, especially modern ones, because I've been with my husband since I was 17 years old. So modern dating and adult dating, I have no reference point for. So it's interesting to see how it changes and what it's like for people now. And I liked I liked him reading. I thought it was great. I listened on Audible too. And I liked how well researched it was, that he took a whole year to research this and really get several different viewpoints on modern romance, like different cultures, not just North America, but Argentina and,
Japan
and France. So just because, I mean, those are different. And what does it look like for people over there? And I just really enjoyed how well researched it was, and it made it feel like he wasn't just giving his opinion on something. It was, well, no, based on the hundreds of people we have surveyed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just thought I thought it was really good. I would recommend it to anybody who, even if they didn't like reading books about relationships, just gives you a insight into.
Were you still are? I think we lost your audio.
Oh no!
Can y'all still hear? Can y'all hear me?
I can hear.
Yeah.
I can hear.
Just you.
Oh, can anyone hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you, Eugene.
We had kind of a hiccup. Oh, that's interesting. I guess my Wi-Fi was acting wonky. Sorry, I didn't hear. Hopefully the rest of the everyone else heard everything that you were saying.
I just see my mouth moving.
Well, yeah, I get quiet and I'm just like, can anyone else hear her? I can't hear her. So
I can hear her, and she sounds beautiful.
Oh, angel.
Jennifer, thoughts?
I really liked it. This is my second time reading it. I had read it a few years ago, a little after it came out, and it was very it's kind of refreshing to hear that, a lot of people are dealing with the same challenges I am in the dating world. And it was interesting to have the insight into how dating's changed over the years, and just how technology, the impact technology's had on it, and just things that I hadn't thought about before. It was kind of eye-opening. And I liked that, like Lainey said, it was scientific, and it wasn't just like, we're just going to talk about this stuff and, give our own opinions. It was actually fact-based, which I didn't realize going in. So, yeah, I liked it a lot.
Mandy, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, that's kind of what took me off guard. And I kind of appreciated how he took like the celebrity book. He said they were offering him, a book contract all along, and he never took it. But when he finally did, he like made research out of it and didn't just do the whole, here's my life, here's what I've observed. He actually I think it's funny he took the opportunity to travel. Like, he got them to pay for his travel. That's funny. But like how he really did dig in and look into it. That was a different take. And it's not a book I ever would have picked for myself, but I'm glad I read it.
When this book was recommended, I wasn't quite sure. At first, of course, I'm aware of his work. I loved his character on Parks and Rec. And then I enjoyed at this point, I'd only seen the first season of his show, Master of None, on Netflix. And so I immediately thought, okay, well, this is going to be a comedy book. And then, like y'all, he goes pretty quickly into the book and starts talking about all the research that they did. He actually starts off, he talks about hooking up with a girl, trying to figure out when he's going to contact her afterwards. He texts her. She doesn't text back. He starts freaking out. Days go by. Nothing happens. And he realizes that, he would not have been in the situation just a few years previously. So when he decided, and he was like, well, maybe I should kind of read into this, and he could not find a book about it. So he decided, well, I'll write one. And then, yes, that's when he starts going in and he starts talking about the fact of they did all of these interviews from all over the world. And they did this back in 13, 14. They got information from OkCupid and Match.com. They had a subreddit set up. Like, they did actual legitimate research on this. And that right there was kind of the turnkey for me. That's when I'm like, ooh, this is going to be really interesting. In fact, a lot of the notes that I have here for the book specifically come out of the research that they did. As kind of talking points for the book. So one of the first things he talks about is they go to a retirement community, and they talk to a bunch of seniors.
Alfredo!
The donut thief was hilarious.
I love me some Alfredo.
Yep. He's expecting to get married. They were expecting people saying they got married young, meeting family early on, but didn't expect how close people lived. And the 1930 survey found that most people married others within walking distance of home. good age for marriage was 20-year-old for women, 23 for men. Now it's 27 and 29 and 30 overall. And I mean, yeah, that's, we're creeping up on 70, 80 years ago for, that survey, but I mean, that's quite a change. But the fact that the people were all like, oh yeah, I met my husband. He lived in the same building, or he lived right down the street. And I'm just like, that really kind of hit home, because I met my wife online, and she, she was 3+ hours away from me. So the idea of like, oh yeah, I found my mate, and they were literally in the same building. I'm just like, that's interesting. So, let's see here. And they start talking about the fact of emerging adulthood, the time now where we go to college, we start a career, and then we marry. No such thing before for older women, and most of them seem to regret it. A lot of them were saying, had they had the chances that modern day women have now, they probably would not have gotten married as young. A lot of them specifically said they even tell their granddaughters, date a lot, go out, have fun, be safe, but go out and have fun. Like, don't just settle down.
I thought that was kind of interesting.
A lot that they're all younger than me, and they're in their early 20s now. And I got married when I was 23 and Ray was 22. And I don't feel like I missed out on anything. It's just my life is flipped. So, and I did it all young. So when I'm in my 40s, the kids will have moved out, and then I can do all that stuff. Instead of doing it in my 20s, I'm going to do it in my 40s. And I didn't know that going in. I'm like, no, we've been together for so long. Let's get married. This is what we're supposed to do. And then now being 36, it's like, knowing now what I think I would have not waited, but maybe held off on kids a little bit longer. I mean, I love my children. I'm happy with the age they are, but it happened a lot quicker than we thought. And maybe tell like my cousins now, it's like, if you want to travel, do it now. Do it now before you have kids, because once you have kids, it gets exponentially harder and more expensive.
Yes.
So I love it, but it's like, it just happened quicker. But now I can do it in my 40s.
There you go.
See, and I think Ray and Chris, are just knowing Ray and Chris the way that we do, I think Ray and Chris are a really good example of what happens when that situation goes really, really well.
Yes, because we know people who it doesn't go so well for.
Yes, and I think that speaks to Ray and Chris's relationship a lot too, and just like the respect that they have for each other. But I thought this part in the book was interesting because you have that old adage of like, yeah, my mother and my grandmother won't leave me alone about getting married or whatever. And that's never been my experience. I've always had the same experience of like what this book is touting, which is, now like these grandmothers are telling their granddaughters like, no, don't settle down anytime soon. Like, go do what you need to do. That's always been the case for me. Everybody has always kind of said the same thing to me. Like, no, like you're not there yet. Just keep moving along and do what you want to go do. Don't stop anytime soon because you think you found it. Because I don't think you're there yet.
Right.
So I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting though. Cause that does and I know people who have grandparents that are like, well, when are you going to get married? Like, when are you going to start giving me, some great grandchildren or whatever? And that's
my sister. My sister says, I want grandbabies because she's a bitch, but she says it jokingly, but
right.
She wants to play of the grandma that's nagging.
Gotcha.
I love it.
I wish, looking back, I wish I would have dated more. I don't necessarily would have said I needed to wait to get married, but I wish I would have dated more. But I think for me, it's more so of a confidence thing. It's more so of a, the older I've gotten, the more confident I've gotten about a lot of things. And it's just like, I really should have like gone for it a couple of times when I didn't, and just like, just kind of looking back on that aspect, not so much the fact that I think, I got married a little too early or something like that. It's just, but like I said, for me, that's more of a confidence thing, but I definitely see that. And, you look at the divorce rates right now, and I mean, it's pretty evident that, hey, don't, maybe you should spend some time together, like maybe quite a bit of time before you get married. So,
and wasn't there a statistic in there too that said something about like couples that get married after like 23 are way less likely to divorce or something
when
like
we
that? Was
get
it
to
23
it,
or 25? Something like that. I thought that was interesting. And I
did too.
have a lot of coworkers that are younger than me that are married that like to be like, well, and I don't appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, and then half the people that say that are miserable and like, it's like, why do you want me to jump into that if you're not even?
Well, and I think back to the
say,
people that I dated then, and ugh.
Yeesh. What was I? Was I drunk the entire time?
Yikers! Oh god.
Yeah.
I will say that section in the beginning where it talks about how it's changed reminded me. That's actually like my grandmother's story. She married like her brother's friend from down the street. They were together, I don't know, 20, 30 years. And then she was like, you know what? I want a divorce. I'm not happy. I want to be on my own. And they kind of talk about how like with the feminist movement, that empowered a lot of women. And that's exactly around the time she decided that. And she left, they divorced and she's never remarried. But it was really interesting that was a part of a greater movement to me. And
she's not the one nagging you to get married, right?
No, it's my sister who's younger than me and who just likes to make fun of me.
Well, there you go. Yeah, it specifically talks about the fact that a lot of women at that time married because it was like the only way they could get out of the house. Like at that time, if you're a woman and you're single, you live with your parents, and that's all there is to it. And then you kind of look down if you don't do that, and then you get married, and you're like, oh wow, now I'm living with someone else that may be overbearing, especially at that time.
It was a lot more economically necessary, in a way, because you didn't have the right to work and do the things that they can do now. But like it wouldn't have been impossible. I don't think it would have just been a lot more difficult. Yeah.
And then the other thing that they said that really changed, and I definitely can see this, is the fact that we marry for different reasons now. And it's love over arrangement. Yeah. So, or stability. Actually, I wrote down or stability. So,
which is a double-edged sword too.
Yes, because literally the next thing I wrote down is young people today have now have option paralysis when it comes to dating. Yeah, I could see that. So, I'm because there are quote unquote there's always two types of people in the world. Even though that's not true. But anyway, I'm definitely that type of person that like tries to narrow down my options as quickly as possible. Like if I'm planning on buying a new television, it's like, nope, I immediately have to narrow this down because otherwise that is an overwhelming thing. And that can drive me insane. So dating in the modern world, I can see that would definitely be the case.
Yeah, when he talked about his search for the perfect lunch, like that's me to a T and everything. I have to Google it, ask people, like, I don't want to miss out. I have FOMO,
That was exhausting listening to him. I'm not going to lie. It was like, dude, it's just lunch. Like, relax. You're going to get food. It's okay. You don't have to.
How I am.
Are you that way with anything though, Chris? Like, is there something you're just like, I have to research it and figure out it has to be the best? Because I know Ray is that way. He's told me multiple times, especially like when buying a car or something.
With cars, he is annoyingly like that.
I'm going to make him help me then.
I will plainly look at him and be like,
"Cars are the worst."
I don't care. With me, no. I can't think of anything off the top of my head where I would be like obsessively researching over. Oh no.
She's like, wait, no, never mind.
Chris is the actual coolest, though. That's the whole thing.
The best way to recycle something, or minimize.
When it comes to like, I don't like online shopping, so I wouldn't obsessively research that. I think it's more if I find something I like, I just stick with it. Like, I don't branch off very, very easily. I'm a little timid that way. So if I find something that works, I'm like, all right, good to go. And off I go. So I don't put a lot of effort into it. Oh, I sound terrible. I sound so lazy.
No, that doesn't. No,
you just
that sounds perfectly fine.
Confident in your choice, and
exactly,
I know what I want, and then I go out and get it. And if it's a wrong choice, so I just suck it up and suffer the consequences. And then
I was gonna make a call back to Saturday show and say when she finds something she wants, she runs after it.
Run on
Literally.
That's right.
jump on it.
If you have not gone back and listened to our last episode of the Epically Geeky Show, we talked about dating as a geek, and it was a really good show. It was a really fun show, and we talked about how some of us on the episode met our partners, and there were some striking similarities there. I'll leave it at that. So,
I'm shocked by yours, Eugene.
I'm still shocked about mine. So, anyway, so asking someone out still scary, but now you have to decide: in person, call, text, other, lots of other things that list there. In 2013, Match.com said over 30s, 52% call, 28% face-to-face, 8% text, 7% email. Under 30, it was 23% call, 36% face, 32% text, which is way up, and 1% email. I mean, if email is the only way you have to get a hold of this person, I guess I just don't see asking someone out via email. But
I got asked to prom via ICQ.
Shut up.
Oh yeah,
that is awesome.
It wasn't Ray, by the way. Where I'm from.
ICQ, nice.
You baby.
What about y'all? Like, if you were going to ask someone out, I mean, I've gotten to where I really enjoy texting just because it's, I can pick it up, text someone, wait for the information to come back. But like, if I was going to ask someone out, it would definitely be either face-to-face or a phone call. It would have to be one of those two.
I have not been asked out via phone call or face-to-face since high school.
Wow, really?
Really?
It's been all text or
all text. Like, once I got into college, it was all text. Well, no, yeah, that was Facebook Messenger. Yeah, it's been all online. I have never, not like as a 20-something person, I have never been asked out face to face.
So then I have a question. How does that make you feel? Is it more comforting that they've asked you out that way, so you don't have to either say no to their face and you can just do it via text, or like? I
wouldn't say it's any better if you want to say no, because I'm just bad at that. I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, I just can't. I can't handle it.
And she literally texts that no.
I think I'm busy. Like, I don't know what to say. It's bad. Yeah. It's the worst. But like, I don't know. It's such like the norm, at least I guess, for a lot of the people that I've known, that you don't really think about it. It doesn't seem weird until you talk to other people that are like, yeah, no, I would call someone. You're like, oh yeah, for sure. That totally makes sense. I don't know, but no, I just don't think I'm racking my brain, and I don't think I've ever, maybe one guy asked me to go out with him via phone call, maybe, but we were already kind of hanging out, so I don't know if that really counts. That guy turned out to be a wang too, so
I was gonna say that counts. He was a wang.
Let's see here. At this point he ends up reading a quote in a Southern accent and says, I'm just gonna keep doing the Southern accent the rest of the book because I love it, which once again stepping out of the actual book, which was funny. There was a theory presented that because we are texting so much, it could be causing the part of our brain to atrophy when it comes to talking to people.
Yep, I believe that.
I believe that too. I don't like talking to anybody on the phone anymore.
No, I don't like talking with people on the phone either. But as someone who works at a high school, I know these kids are mostly texting each other. But my God, they still know how to talk a lot. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it's necessarily atrophied. I'm just throwing that out there.
See, that's the thing. It's like, I feel like when I sit down with my friends, like, we like to talk and have like face-to-face conversations. I call my best friend a lot to just sit on the phone and talk with her. Mm-hmm. Because I like texting her, but it's nice to talk with her.
Right.
I think with like with friends and casual conversation, it's still a thing, but with dating, it's increasingly texting, and people don't like to call. Like, it's very rare that I'll get a phone call from a guy that I've been talking to, especially to ask me out on a date. Like, it's usually via text, but just to like chat, I just want to talk to them sometimes if I can't see them. And yeah, you don't get that very often because it's like people are afraid or they don't think you want to.
There's like an aversion to like lulls in conversation.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like no one wants to deal with like this sometimes like little awkward, which isn't always necessarily a bad thing or a sign that you're not like connecting. Just sometimes when you're meeting someone new, it's kind of hard to like talk with them face to face like that. And I think maybe that's why we do that.
Yeah. But like he said too, like sometimes it's more convenient to send things because you don't have to deal with emotions, or if it's something mean, you don't have to see their reaction, or,
Yes.
The breakup thing, which I think is completely shitty, breaking up with someone via text or whatever. But that's why a lot of people just gone to that. Unfortunate.
The at this point in the book, he brings up straightwhiteboytext.com. And at this point, I literally hit pause, pulled off my earphones, and looked at Christy and said, I have a website I'm sure you will probably enjoy.
Oh, I'm sure she loves it.
Yeah, we went and looked at, I don't know if she ever went back to it, but I definitely had to look up some of them. So, and then of course they list some of the worst texts, the endless haze, the never getting to the point, never scheduling anything, too shy to actually ask out. Unfortunately, that would be me. Bad grammar. We discussed this a little bit on the show Saturday night. And pretty much the conclusion is, unless you have a flip phone, your grammar better be decent. And if you have a flip phone, just call, because it's easier. It'd be easier to call than to actually text on the flip phone. So.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Good text listed though said specifically invite to do something, recall the last interaction, stuff like that. So I mean, to me that was just like duh, like yeah, of course, like but yeah, you're shaking your head. I know what I think is normal is not normal. I know this. I'm just saying. No,
what you think is normal and is the thing that you should do, but people are dumb and don't do that, and I don't know why.
Couldn't tell you.
I think if more people were very like more, especially when men are asking like someone out, I feel like if they would be more to the point about, we should go do XYZ on XYZ at XYZ. Like there's something really attractive about someone who's like, no, I want to hang out with you on this day. We're going to go do this. Let's meet up at this time.
Yeah.
It's forward. It's to the point. There's no guessing games. I know that you want to come and hang out with me. I don't have to sit here and have the ridiculous internal conversation of, I don't know. You can just, you know where you stand. Sorry, that's really frustrating to me.
No, I like I said, I was not confident, in that time of my life, and yes, I would have definitely probably fallen into that category. Of course, I was also trying to. I specifically remember, I had a neighbor. She lived like across the way from me. I wasn't interested in dating her or anything. We were just friends. And I'm sure it was because she was having some issues with her boyfriend or whatever. And I was like, hey, why don't we just go get something to eat? And she's like, okay. I'm like, well, what would you like? And she just like went off and was just like, why don't you just be a fucking man and just pick something? I'm just like, okay, that's
bye.
All right. But for some reason, those stupid things that always stick with you. That was one of those things. And I was just like, I was trying to be nice. I was trying to ask, hey, is there something that you want to do? But even I still run into that with my wife from time to time. Hey, are you hungry? What do you want to eat? And the reason why I don't pick anything is because it gets shot down. Hey, do you want Taco Bell? No, not tonight. Okay. I don't want a burger either. Okay. I don't know if I want pizza. Yeah. I'm like, well, then you pick something.
That's why Parker he hates having that conversation with me. He will like cut me off at the pass when he's like, are you hungry? But you have to tell me what you want.
Yes.
And that drives me crazy.
That's why 3, 2, 1 is one of my favorite things ever, where I go, all right, fine. I'm going to pick 3 things. You pick 2 of those 3, and then I pick the final one, and that's it. We're done. If you don't like the 3 choices, then you get to pick something else. So
you have to tell Parker that trick, because I think it'll help us a lot.
3, 2, 1 is great. So literally you'd be like, well, I'm hungry. Okay. Is there anything you don't want? No. All right. Well, then we're going to Pizza Hut, McDonald's, or Taco Bell. And then you would pick 2 of those 3, and then I pick the final one, and that's where we go. So, I can't remember who taught me that trick, but I love that. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Let's see here. Oh, so I wrote on there that I was gonna talk about because we were talking about interacting and stuff. The first message like I said, I met my wife online, and this was before like any of the big dating sites. Like I think we used Excite or whatever, and I just set the radius for like 3 miles because I was like, oh, I could drive to Dallas. And
3 miles. 300
3 hours.
miles?
3 hours, not 3
3
miles.
hours.
3 hours.
300 miles. Shut up, Lainey.
Yeah,
I don't know distance.
Well, apparently I don't know time. But I swear it's just water in this bottle. We like I saw a couple of different posts thought were interesting or whatever, and her post was the one that particularly grabbed me. It literally started off. Now we're talking pre-2000. We're talking about 1990. No, wait a minute. We're talking about right around 2000, I guess. 99, 2000. It literally starts off, I'm a slut.
Go on. So different, she and I.
and then literally the next line is, just kidding. If that's what you're looking for, move on. And I thought anyone who's got the balls to put that out online might be worth meeting. So I wrote her an email, and I noticed that her account had been up for, a little while or whatever. And I just wrote, I said, hey, you seem interesting. Here's a little bit about myself. If you've already met, this is what got me the call back. I said, if you've already found someone, great. I hope you are happy with that person. Basically just and genuinely just wished her, good luck. Hopefully, if you've already found someone, that's awesome. Just don't worry about me or whatever. And that's what got me, written back. So, but yeah, so, I mean, like that's would technically be the last time that I've done any kind of dating communication like that. So, and then he talks about the texting games. Oh, this drives me insane. How long do you wait to text? Research shows now on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Some people see it as, I was researching other people, but no, texting games. And the stuff that he listed blew my mind. It's calculations people have for if it took them an hour to text me, I'm going to wait 2 hours to text them back. And
I hate that shit.
Calculating.
Well,
like not in a productive way.
No.
You're just making yourself just it's full of anguish. It just seems so unnecessary.
And like, if you want to talk to somebody, fucking talk to them. Fuck off. I don't care. I'm going to text you 3 times in a row. Buzz, it's me. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. I don't know if I would be successful now because if I want someone, I'm going to go get you. I'm not going to play coy. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I will be like, I like you. Let's get it on. Like, that's what I would say. And
there you go.
But I don't get the games. I don't understand why people think that it's productive. Why would you think that you're going to get what you want out of that?
This is part of the reason dating is so frustrating today, because people think you have to do that. And I've had people tell me, oh, don't text them right away or wait a few hours or whatever. And I'm like, no, if I'm interested in someone, I'm just going to respond if I'm available. If I'm not, then I'll respond when I am. But like, I don't think it makes me look desperate. If I'm interested, I want them to know. I don't want them to guess and then get tired of waiting, like it's just stupid. I don't have the patience for that. I don't have the time for that shit. Too many things to think about. Like,
that's right.
So frustrating.
Well, that's the thing is I feel like that's insulting too. It's like, oh yeah, I definitely have the time to sit around and calculate how long it's been since you texted. Fuck off. He's going to text you.
And if you don't respond to me, like if a guy doesn't respond for hours and hours, like I get sometimes you're busy, but come on, like don't play that game with me. I've had guys do that too. And they're always busy or whatever.
Do the thing where you say like, oh, I'm really sorry. I was doing da da da. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But like, if you really like someone, let's be honest, you're going to make the time for them and you can't wait to talk to them constantly.
Absolutely.
That's how I feel.
I feel like if you're going to play those games just with texting, you're going to do that in a relationship.
Exactly.
Probably so.
You're already setting yourself up. Like, I play games, just so you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
talks about researching people on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, so on and so forth. Never had that option available.
Maddening. It's so maddening.
So I take it you've done some researching?
Oh yeah, like I stalk people all the time, but I'm not gonna lie. Like,
fuck yeah.
If I like someone, the first thing I do is, well, when I meet someone, if I'm interested, first thing I'll do is go on Facebook to see if they're single, if I can tell if they're single. And then if they're not, then I stop. If I can't tell, then I'll, maybe try to do a little more digging. But like, yeah, if I like someone a lot, then I might, read up on them and look at pictures just to get some ideas of if we're compatible, what they're about. But I've like kind of backed off, in the last year or so, couple of years, because it's like, it kind of takes away from the excitement of getting to know them. And it's also a little counterproductive because, like he said in the book, you might find one stupid little thing and be turned off by it. Mm-hmm. And in real life, it probably wouldn't bother me as much, but I don't know.
I feel like I feel like you have to be like, I am a fan of snooping. I think you don't want to snoop too hard when you first start seeing somebody, but I feel like the example he used about like, she's a Red Sox fan. Okay. Yeah. Like, get over yourself. That's a dumb reason to not go out with someone. Now, if you're looking at their Facebook and you're like, oh, he's a huge fucking racist, maybe you don't want to go out with that guy.
Oh, he voted for Trump. Just kidding.
Or like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, if you find out like, oh, like what's that one thing that one girl found out that this guy had gone to jail with his mother for beating up an old lady? That's an important thing to find out.
That is important stuff to find out. Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I feel like snooping is okay. You don't want to like hardcore deep dive. You don't want to have like bank statements on this guy, but it doesn't hurt to do a teeny tiny bit of research.
And that's understandable. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's
got to be careful.
Asking your friend if they know the person will tell me about the person.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up. That goes back to even the way back to, I married the guy who lives in the same building, because that person would have surely asked, oh, what's your neighbor like? Or what's your buddy like, or whatever. So yeah, that's same thing, just not quite on that level, but
yeah. They did that in Greece when they're asking each other about, come on now.
Yeah.
You gotta be careful when you're snooping not to accidentally like something from like 2 years ago, or
I have learned
comment on something that you saw that you wouldn't have had any other way of knowing about, and at least not right away.
I've learned how to fix that whole thing where you like accidentally like something because you're stalking someone's page.
Yeah.
I know you can do this on Instagram. You might be able to do it on Facebook too. But if you like something, like if you're deep diving on someone's Instagram and you accidentally like something, unlike it super fast, go all the way back up and like their newest picture. So they still have like that notification is there, but it doesn't look like you're being a total fucking weirdo.
Good information.
You're welcome. I do that with people that I know casually more than I do that with people that I like would ever want to date.
Gotcha.
Just like to know things.
No.
That's your weekly tip from your neighborhood creeper.
That's right.
You're welcome.
It talks about OkCupid, 40,000 dates a day. Computer dating starting back in the 60s using the punch cards, which I thought was interesting just as a computer geek.
Hilarious.
The classified ads being big in the 80s and 90s. I remember that was kind of a big thing, hearing about that. And then the video dating in the 80s that he specifically brings up, and he's like, go watch some of the videos on YouTube. I haven't done that, but it was one of those things I was like, that might be fine, kind of interesting.
It's funny. Oprah did a show, so there's snippets on YouTube now from that old show Oprah did. It is funny. They did it in Alaska or something like that. I don't know, but it's funny.
Oh no.
In 2005 to 2012, 1/3 of all couples met online. 38% of singles today have now used an online dating service. Surprise, surprise. Women get much more attention than men do online. And then he talks about getting super picky and dismissing people over simple things. And then it says like online dating, has become a chore for many people. And they don't put that much effort into it. And you kind of mentioned that a little bit on the show Saturday, right, Jen?
Yeah, it can like kind of
consume all of your time at points where you're like obsessively checking it. But then you also get to a point where you're just kind of like, oh, great, another message, I'll send this guy a message if I think something's interesting, but your heart's not really in it because you just get so burnt out on it,
Mm-hmm. He talks about the fact that, as he put it, most people suck at dating online because the main thing is they don't really know what they want, or they are too granular with it. And I completely understand that. I think Ray even mentioned it, and I know Will mentioned it. Like, if I were going to current day be trying to look for someone, I would not have ended up with my wife. It's just, let's just start with some basic stuff. I generally prefer brunettes. She's a blonde.
Yeah.
So in today's dating, if I had put down, preferred brunettes, it probably would have never shown me, my wife. And that's something that's like, wow, that's kind of really scary. So it's like, are you really general and throw a really wide net that ends up, catching a lot of garbage? Or, do you like really, zoom down, and then you're like, oh, wow, there's one person and I've already dated them. They suck. Like what they talked about in the talking about for the small towns. I thought that was kind of funny. So
like when a lot of the message I used to get when I was online were from guys who would do the just, hey, what's up, and not really like indicate that they read my profile or were trying to get to know me. The ones that really stood out that I would usually answer are the ones that would cite something from my profile or said something funny or different, like even a bad pickup line, like as a joke, would get me versus just the, hey, how's it going? I always, when I initiated a message, would try to find something in their profile worth, pointing out to show that I was, we connected on this, or I like this or that. So I think people they are lazy. They're bad at dating because they don't try. They don't think they can just, throw a sloppy message out there and get.
Or the copy paste message that he talks about that some people do.
Yes. Or so many dudes too, just literally, especially on like Tinder and stuff, they're swiping stuff. I think that they can't keep track of all of the women that they might have matched with because they just literally, I've met guys that use Tinder that have specifically told me, oh yeah, when I'm looking to meet girls on this, I don't even look at it. I'm literally just swiping right because I know that they're going to be a lot pickier and then they just send them a, hey, what's up? Fuck that. What the hell? Like, I don't know. I think that that's silly.
Yeah, but they're also missing out themselves too, right? Like they know that the women are going to be more picky, but you deserve to be choosy as well, right? Like don't just swipe because either you're horny or you've been told it's okay to do that. Like pick it or don't do it at all.
And then it's like a weird, I don't know. The guys that have told me that they do that, when they describe why they do that to me, what it reminds me of is like some gross power play where it's like, yeah, I'm just going to like all these girls because the ones that I match with, I know that they definitely like me back. And then I get to choose like what the, fuck off.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. It's toxic masculinity at its finest.
One of the things it mentions, it does say is that, a lot of people will text or message, forever to infinity. And it's like, you should, from what they figured out, 2 or 3 max, and then you need to meet this person because after that you may just be spinning your wheels. And I can definitely see that. Granted, I don't know how long my wife and I like emailed first before we like finally exchanged phone numbers, and then we eventually finally, met in person. I know that's a little bit different situation, but
emails
still, it's
like
one of those things you want to
like.
Do what?
I said emails feel like almost like you're it's like I'm gonna sound like a millennial. Please excuse me. It's almost like sending back like love letters back and forth with someone. Do you know what I mean though? Because you can't. It's not fast. You're having to like write out this whole thing, and maybe you add in a couple of funny things, and maybe you tell them a little bit more about yourself, and then you're so excited to get it back, and then you get it back. Like there's still the anticipation there. With the messaging, it's just like, yes, like the messaging is just like meh, 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 and then it's eventually maybe he's gonna ask you out, but there's no more real anticipation because you've been talking for 2 weeks.
You've got mail.
Oh, and you know he's just gonna be like, "How was your day?" Fuck off.
Yeah.
Speaking of Tinder, it talks about it was started in 2011.
What has it been that long?
Yeah, 2015 had 50 million users. Originally, they set it up to play it like a game. It was originally kind of based off of Grindr, which was mainly for gays. And it's kind of become a big dating app, you know, not just a hookup app, you know, especially in larger cities. So, and then, okay, so as a person of my age, I have never used Tinder. Everything I pretty much had heard about Tinder was, oh, it's just a hookup app. Would you agree to that? Would you agree with that? Would you say that, no, it's definitely...
She met on Tinder.
Do what now?
My sister just married a guy she met on Tinder.
Okay, so see, it can be more than just, yeah.
It can be, but I will say I think that is the exception and not the rule. I know like a couple people that have met long-term people on Tinder, but for the most part, even people that get on there that say that like, oh, I'm not just looking for a hookup, it's not usually the case. It's so instant gratification. I think it just kind of lends itself to that. So, but some people do. They get on there and they meet somebody and make a way deeper connection, and that's awesome. So, but I don't know. Everyone I've ever known that's really used it, that seems to be their whole thought of it as well. That seems to be, or their impression of it as well.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I've been off and on. I was off and on it for years. And I put on my profile like not here for hookups, and of course they don't even read your profile, so that didn't matter. But
not if they're swiping right on everything. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, like that's pointless. But most of the guys I would talk to would normally end up only wanting that, or you know, end up not being interesting anyway. So I know a few people that met and are still together on Tinder from Tinder, though. I think it's just like anything else. You're going to have some of each.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, you know, I'm there, you know, at this point, it's not really bashing online dating. It's just kind of really kind of pointing out some of the downside to it. But then he does bring up the fact that like, in certain, and other foreign countries like Qatar, like this is allowing, especially the women there, to like actually have some freedom and, you know, because it is still, very locked down for them, and they're actually able to, get out and, you know, experience something more like what we have here in the West. So, and then he talks about this story. He tells this story about how his dad had an arranged marriage.
I love that story.
There were 3 women, and he basically said one was too tall, one was too short, and there was one in the middle. I talked to her for 30 minutes. We got married, and we're still married. And he's like, it takes me forever to decide on what to eat, going back to what you were bringing up. And I end up eating just peanut butter and jelly.
I love it. Marriages they have like an 80 or 90% success rate. Now, some of that is because the women don't have options; they can't leave. But
it's cultural.
The ones that are in a more developed nation that happen, it's because they grow their relationship over time. They know they're not getting married. They're not in love when they get married. It'll happen eventually. So it's more that they grow together, knowing that.
Yeah, I just don't get that.
I don't know that I would never freaking do it, but it was just that
frozen, so
that's such a high success.
I knew a guy
people in high school. Sorry.
Go on, Lainey.
I knew 3 different people in high school who had parents that were in arranged marriages, and they were all very different. Mm-hmm. You know, one was kind of what everybody pictures is going to happen, where it's basically like 2 strangers living in the house. And then another girl, her parents, they met like 2 days before their wedding and whatever, and got married. And they, you know, it started off a little strange, but they fell like deeply and like just very, very madly in love with each other. And then there was another one where they definitely loved each other. They weren't as like head over heels crazy as the other couple was, but it was a very companion kind of a thing. They had a lot of mutual respect for each other, and it was like a good solid foundation of a marriage. So I don't know. I think a lot of it really has more to do with like the 2 people entering into it, but I don't think it's like totally crazy, you know?
No, like
marriage
I was saying,
in itself is kind of fucking nuts. So
I knew this guy, this older guy that worked at a little computer store I was at, and he met his wife like I can't. I think he said he talked to his wife. He met his wife the day before they got married, and like she didn't even hardly speak a lot of English. And I'm like, how long have y'all been married? He was like, oh, we've been married for like 50 years. It's just like, well, fuck, dude.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, it definitely depends on the people.
Always feel like I'm missing out, or this is, like, what are the odds that this one person is the one? But I'm also looking for that companion or that passionate, like, soulmate connection, like they're talking about people didn't have the option for back in the day. And I just think it's tragic personally, but again, that's one of those things you can't judge if you're not in it. But there's this show now where like people meet and then get married. What's it called? Like Married at First Sight?
Yeah, Married at First, like something like
Never
that,
seen
man.
It looks
It's
ridiculous.
Stupid crazy. Awful. Oh God, it's so bad. It gives me such bad anxiety. Because that's the thing, like, I don't think it's something I could ever do. I don't think arranged marriage is the thing that I could ever do. But I definitely understand the logic behind it, and I definitely think that it works for a lot of people. But the reality show just totally freaks me out because it's a reality show, and that's why they're doing it.
The reality show kind of
super mean guy.
The reality show aspect kind of pulls in a certain crowd. If it were, you know what I'm saying? Like if it's your parents that are arranging this marriage, that's one thing. But a show producer is like, no, let's get the most bang for the buck here.
The real world.
Yeah, no joke. Oh, anyway, so it goes on and talks about minimal options tend to be people tend to be happier with the fewer options, but then it goes way to the extreme and it goes to this little town that basically has no one, and they're all like, yeah, everyone's pretty much dated everyone here and there's no one left at this point. So but let's see here. Tend to overanalyze what little info they have on people. And don't really take to get to know them. That was one of the other things. It was like, people tend to kind of gloss over. They're like, there were a few people where they're like, no, I think, there's some good people here. You're just not, people aren't taking the time to like really get to know them or whatever. So, and then it talks about the types of dates, and it specifically says, it's better to go on a date that is interesting, not just the normal, sit down, eat dinner, go to a movie or whatever. What's funny is of the group that was on the show Saturday night, there were 3 couples on there, and all 3 couples were like, no, my favorite type of date is honestly going to eat dinner, watching a movie, and then having an in-depth discussion after the movie about what it is we liked or disliked about the movie. So, and then Jen, you said you preferred the
take me on an adventure.
Yeah,
adventure. That's the word I was looking for. So
I think that's the difference between the passionate and the companion love. Because I've been with my boyfriend forever, and our favorite date is movie, dinner, talk about the movie. But yeah, when you're first meeting someone, you want to find something you can enjoy together. Something different.
And you learn more about them, I think, in a different scenario than if you're just like forcing conversation and awkwardly trying to think of things to say,
Yeah.
You go on a roller coaster with them, get something to laugh about, you see how they react under pressure, blah, 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 and, how they handle lines and stupid people.
Handling lines.
That's why I like the whole restaurant thing too, is because I went out with a group of friends. Well, I went with my best friend, and she has different friends than I have. And I went because, she's my best friend. It was her birthday. And I sat across from one of her friends, and the way she treated the waitress.
Yeah.
Just like, you're a bitch. I don't call women that very rarely because I hate that word, but it's like just being flat out bitchy to this poor woman who's trying to serve you your food. So I think seeing somebody, if you see them treat people who are in the service industry, things that don't go on time or their way, setting up scenarios where you can sort of see that, I think is very, very telling in somebody, because that's how they're going to do it every single time. If they're freaking out because the line's too long or they're running late or the person in front of them cut them off, then chances are that's who they are.
Then they're a brat and you don't want to hang out with them.
Yeah, I don't want to hang out with a brat.
Just think of that deleted scene from Bridesmaids with Paul Rudd and where they go on the date. Did y'all see that?
No.
I don't think I've seen that. No.
He freaks out. They're like having a great dinner, and then and he's like perfect, and then they go ice skating, and he trips, and this kid like, you know, bumps into him or barely touches him, and he flips out on the kid and starts calling him a little bastard, and you know, his finger is like bruised. He's like, I need to go to the medic right now, and he gets in there and he like pushes a kid aside to get seen. It's just the worst.
I need to go back and watch that. That sounds hilarious.
That's in the deleted scene. It's great.
Oh, and that was be a person I would avoid. Be like, no,
yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And we're done.
You're down.
It's at this point that they decided they wanted to see how things were done in the rest of the world, so he makes a trip to Tokyo. And this was eye-opening to me. 2013, 45% of women 16 to 24 had no interest in sex at all. 25% of men, same thing. 18 to 34, not in a relationship. 61% of men, 49% of women. A third of all under 30 had never dated. 35 to 39, a quarter had never had sex.
Yeah. It's the lack of interest that baffles me.
Yes.
Just a total lack of, I don't even care. I don't want it.
And it talks about, it talks about the part of the reason for that is, well, number one, Japan's birth rate is literally at the, like near the bottom there. But it talks a lot of that they think is because of the work ethic there. Everyone is basically like, all right, you know, we already know Japanese culture is very heavy on education, and they heavily drill their kids into doing the very best they can in education. And I'm sure that carries on into their job. And like a lot of people in a lot of countries, but maybe not to that extreme, a lot of them were like, well, then screw everything else. I'm going to focus on my job or my career and, you know, whatever. So, but I was like, okay, that's interesting. I can kind of see that. And then they drop the big thing. And I was like, what the hell is a herbivore man?
Oh, what made me so mad is as soon as he said it, I was like, I know exactly what that is.
For those of you who are not, yeah, so very passive, shy, no interest in sex, 60% of men in their 30s identified as being a herbivore man. I guess I've always been very shy.
For women, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I've always been very shy, but like there was still interest. That completely baffles me. The fact that it's just like, no, dude, I go to work and then on the weekends I hang out with my bros and play video games.
But it's just all those toys, I guess they don't think they need over a woman.
But it's not even that, they've just given up, and they've even mentioned that I need to know that she's totally into me completely before I even bother to even put interest out there because I can't handle the rejection. And it's like, really, buddy, seriously, you have to be coddled that much?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I've been getting rejected for hundreds of years. Get over it.
So then they have the offset of that, which is the carnivore women who are like, you know what? I want some. I'm going to do this myself if you can't do it for me. And, you know, it's that would be so frustrating to live in a culture where the men are like, meh. And it's just like,
well, and what I love about it is that, and I do mean this sarcastically, but what I love about it is the fact that there's all these herbivore men, and then you have these carnivorous women, and then the men complain about the women being too forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like they can't, it's not good. Like they're never going to get their own way. So what's the point? Like she's too aggressive, but I need to know that she likes me. But how does
more things change?
Yeah.
Like stay the same.
They're doomed if this is what's going to happen.
I'm almost surprised there wasn't a huge uptake after this book came out of single men in America just like getting on the flight and being like, I'm going to fucking Japan. I can live like a king.
Because they can't handle it either. Because they don't like it either.
Mm-hmm.
Like what? The women being so aggressive?
Yeah, the women being super forward and like being like, no, actually, this is what I want, and that's it.
Fuck that. I'm all about
I agree
that.
with that because I am told constantly that I am intimidating. So that's the main
you
reason.
are a little. No, I'm just playing.
Shut up.
Seriously, though, it is the most fucking annoying thing to hear because basically what you're saying is you can't handle a woman who can like take care of herself. You want to have to take care of somebody. And so like, okay, what are you looking for? You're looking for someone that doesn't think for themselves, that doesn't, have any opinions, blah, blah, blah. It's just the dumbest thing, I think.
And why is that an insult for you, but for a lot of men that would be like, a sign of, ooh, he's kind of intimidating. I kind of like it. That's stupid.
Like saying I'm intimidating as if I should stop. Oh, okay, you want me to dumb myself down then? You want me to be like more passive and not think for myself? I don't know. I don't get it. So I'm like, well, if that's what you want in a woman, I'm, just going to either find someone else or be single forever because
I'm going to move along.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
So this was something else that really surprised me is they're like, so they figured, Japan, highly technologically evolved society, probably all about that online dating life. Nope. They don't do the dating thing online. And in fact, the thing that really was funny was they talked about like their profile pictures, how most of them don't even use a picture of themselves. They
like
consider taking a selfie to be douchey, and they're like, yeah, they use pictures of their cats or their rice cooker, and I'm just like, what?
I would do so well in Japan. Look at the picture of my cat.
Just your cat and all your dogs.
Yes, Mary and Molly forever. Done.
Yeah. And then they talk about relationship replacements. The hostess/host bars, basically they pay attention to you, no sex. Soapland.
I love that.
I'm going to pay to lay on an air-up mattress and have a near-naked woman get all soapy and basically just what? I mean, if that's your thing, okay, but what?
And what's your job? Well, I get soaped up and then wriggle.
And probably make fucking bank.
Oh, yeah.
Those girls are pulling down so much money.
Oh, yeah.
Damn.
For the amount of money they spend in one of those places, they could buy dinner for a girl and get laid for a tenth of the cost, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Probably. But the thing is, it also says is most of them aren't expecting that. They just want the touch. They don't want the full sexual experience.
Bodes well for Japan because that's the thing is they still want the physical touch. It's not that it's not there. They just got to stop being such little babies about it.
And then they brought up and I'm glad I'm the only guy on here tonight. The Tinga.
Oh yeah, that's a real thing. Like that's a thing in America too. Did you realize
I know
that?
it's a real thing. I'm just going to especially, since we have a new person on the show, I'm just going to leave it at this and say, you've ever heard that, you've heard that saying, sometimes you can't improve on the perfect mousetrap. That's all I'm going to leave with that one. Moving on. Argentina, 60%. Now, here's where we go to the flip side. Argentina, 60% of women get catcalls, harassed on the street. Like they basically can't walk down the street without being essentially sexually harassed completely. Not just a catcall. Like they talked about it, and I'm like, I'd fucking be shooting people. That's ridiculous. They don't use dating sites, but they use social media a lot. Texting's really big. And they're really down with the whole having a side piece, as it were, to use as the kids would say nowadays.
That's a record show that Eugene just said side piece.
I sure as fuck did.
I love it. This is my favorite show ever.
Record show. Hysterica. They press interest and then suddenly disappear whenever you show interest back, which I was like, what the what?
We call that ghosting here in America.
Right.
Straight up ghost someone.
Yeah. Many flirt with others in relationship, have backups. I'm like, okay. And here's what I also thought was interesting. I hope I'm saying this right. Chongos, aka strongman. Basically, it's just going back to the hip term I just used, having basically a side piece just for sex. Like, no, he's just a chongo. I'm not interested in him.
I love that.
I'm like, okay.
It's like, look at this meathead that I drag around town with me.
Exactly.
Ampex, that's all he is.
Ampex, yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what he is.
He can't even run, but he's pretty.
No.
How cute he is.
Now this was something else that kind of I thought was interesting. Sexting started with Polaroids.
Yeah.
I understand the mentality for that.
I love the idea of people taking photos, sending them to a photo hut to get developed, and then sending them in a letter to someone else, which I know was not a Polaroid. I know. Yeah. I know. I love that was a thing. That makes me LOL so hard. I cannot deal.
Half of 18 to 24-year-olds have received a sext. A third of older teens sent sext. More likely to send sext if you own a smartphone. iPhone users twice as likely to do it as a Android user. And now this was the other thing. Most popular time to sext was Tuesday morning from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m.
There's like nothing going on a Tuesday.
Y'all just not work on Tuesdays? Like,
well, this is, I think people that are doing that at that time are probably college students.
I guess.
So I don't know. Most people that I know that are in school do like Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday classes. So if you have like a Monday, Wednesday class, which most people like, you don't have a class on Tuesday, or you have a late class. I don't know. I was in college once. It reminds me of that. I get it. I can see where that might be the lull in your schedule.
Yeah, married couples just as likely to send a sext. I'm just like, what? You're at work. It's like 10 a.m. It's like, oh, well, I'm taking a picture of my penis and my wife. Because you know what? It's Tuesday.
You know what that means.
Yeah.
No, it's Wednesday and I got my business socks on. So.
It's taco night tonight, baby.
Right. Oh, God, Eugene.
I meant that isn't like Taco Tuesdays. I didn't mean it that way.
Was that Taco Tuesday? That's a reason why I didn't say it, Eugene. That's why I didn't say it.
I know, and that's why I went there. Sex becomes empowering, keeps relationships spicy, long distance, explain. My wife is friends with lots of women who have husbands that, have been deployed and are overseas. And yes, that is a very common thing. And I'm just like, I completely understand that shit. Biggest fear, of course, is images being leaked, so on and so forth, celebrity hacks, this, that, and the other. And then, it kind of goes into, people are still kind of shamed for, oh, well, their pictures they took of themselves leaked or whatever, and they kind of go after them. And, if you're a celebrity and you want to do that, that's fine. I'm not bashing you for doing it. If you, are proud of your body, go for it. That's my problem. My thing is just like, just remember, you are a celebrity. You have a much bigger target on your back than, Joe Blow that, no one knows. It's like, hey, I've got, 500,000 followers on Instagram and stuff. They might be trying to see if there's extra pictures on your account. I'm just saying. So just
you proceed with caution, but if and when it does happen, I do get really pissed off at people that are like, well, they shouldn't have been. Fuck off. You don't ever take pictures of your butt in the mirror? Really? You don't? I don't know. I think that's dumb.
It's just all the shaming needs to stop in general.
Thank you.
Let people do their own thing, and who gives a shit? It doesn't hurt you.
Go after the people that think it's okay to bust into someone's privacy like that, because that's fucked up.
That's not gonna get any shit. It's what they find.
Exactly.
It also talks about it also goes on to talk about ashleymadison.com. My wife did not know what that was until they had that big hack or whatever.
Really?
Yes. And that's always an interesting conversation. How do you know what it is? Because I know what it is.
Everybody knows what it is.
That's what I thought too, but let's see, most used 20 to 40% married people, US, and 25% married women. have at least one affair. 70% of cheating is non-married, committed pairs. 63% of men, 50% of women engaged in mate poaching. 80% of men, 70% of women say spouse should confess on affair. 80% of both say it isn't right. And then they talked about France, where it's just like,
it's a mistress. Mistress.
I love the Valentine's Day, like don't forget your mistress at all the flower shops and stuff.
That was hilarious.
Well, and he made a good point of like, it's kind of cool that they're a little bit more lenient with just like, listen, sometimes things happen. Mm-hmm. But he also made a good point about being like, but at the same time, it's kind of shitty because a lot of these women are kind of getting the raw end of the deal. Like the thing about the wife who at one point just started bagging the bones after dinner for the
bones for the mistress's dog. Yeah.
So, but he brought up a really interesting quote from someone that I really, really love, Esther Perel. She's a psychiatrist. Yep. And I think that I love the way that she puts this, because I've had other people kind of say something similar to me. And those are usually the people I know that have really strong, stable relationships. And that a lot of times people, especially now, look for a partner that can fulfill them in every single way. And what used to take a village is now all put on the shoulders of like one other person in a relationship. And that's you can't do that. You're setting yourself up for failure. So while I do not condone going out and cheating, I also know people that for them, it's not necessarily a deal breaker and did not break up their relationship. I don't know. I think that the way that the French look at it is interesting. It goes a little bit too far, but I like the way that Esther Perel discusses it. If you've never read anything by her, by the way, you should go check it out because she's a genius. But the way that she talks
I definitely want to read her book sometime on this show.
Yeah. The way that she discusses infidelity is really interesting. And it puts it into a new perspective that I think just like our civilization doesn't really look at it, or our culture doesn't really see it that way. So it's interesting. You should check it out.
I guess my thing is like, if you're going to be in a quote unquote open relationship and sleep with other people, then why call it a relationship? Like, I don't get that. To me, to me, a relationship is being monogamous with someone. So if you're seeing other people, that's not a relationship, but that's just my opinion. I don't know.
See, I know people that are in open relationships, and it's still a relationship because it's really just the way that people care for one another. It's people that are like tied together in some way, shape, or form. I couldn't really do an open relationship. That's not something that I could ever foresee myself being in. But I know people that do it and it works. And I get why it's still a relationship, because it's just the way that people are interconnected and intertwined with each other, So
I would just always feel like they're gonna like get with someone else and eventually leave, or like lose interest, or I don't know. I could never do it.
So Ray and I have the same. Sorry, Ray and I have the same belief in that. We both believe on a base level, on a DNA level, humans are not monogamous creatures. We're just not. So knowing that, and knowing that marriage and monogamy is a societal construct, it's something that's been put on us. With that said, if you choose monogamy, it is a choice. So therefore, because you're not hardwired for it, you have to work at it. If that's something that you're choosing to do, then you have to put the time and effort in. If you don't want monogamy and you want the open relationship or multiple partners or whatever, then you also have to put the time in to cherish those relationships too, and be totally open and full consent on that. So with us, because we choose monogamy, it's constantly it sounds tedious, but it's like, you okay? I'm okay. How are you feeling? I'm good. How are you feeling? Good. And you check in with each other because you want to make it work with that one person, so that the other person doesn't feel like, you know what? You're not doing it for me anymore. I'm going to go check out. And you're left like, what the fuck happened? Why'd you cheat on me?
See, I don't think that sounds tedious. I think it just sounds like healthy and like
choosing it. It's like for Ray and I, it's not. It's just a normal thing that we discuss all the time. It's like it's part of our conversation. It's not work for us. But it is a choice, and it's an active, choice that we've made.
Conscious effort.
Yeah, it's conscious effort. It's not. It may sound it's not, but it's for us. That's what we want to do. And if it were different, then it would be different, and it would be our consenting choice with each other.
But I think you bring up a good point too about like just communication in general in a relationship. I think that's something. Yeah. I think that that's always something, not one, I'm not going to say always, but I think that that's something that in a lot of cases leads to a lot of cheating and, you know.
Yeah. Cause I feel like if you're going to be with somebody, that person is, now again, they don't have to be everything for you because that is ridiculous, but they should be your safe place. They should be that, at least that very one person you could totally be yourself around where you don't feel like you get judged. They're your person. Mm-hmm. So if you're not feeling that they're getting you, or if you're feeling something's off, then you should feel comfortable enough to bring it up to that person and talk to them about it. We know so many couples where we're like, why the fuck didn't they just talk to each other? Why the hell are they hiding it from each other? Why? What would be the point? Why are you in a relationship if you're just going to like live a double life? What's the point? Mm-hmm. Right? So you have to talk to the person. Communication above everything else is very, very, very important if you plan on having a long-term relationship.
Yeah, we could go on and on. And in fact, we probably should add at some point or another, we should definitely read her book, Mating in Captivity, because it's basically this this subject, but the deep dive on it. So,
and the woman is genius. So,
yes. Sorry, just trying to, for time, trying to keep moving on.
How dare you?
I know. Aziz talks about stopping going to bars and starts going to places like museums and stuff to try to find someone. And we talked a little bit about that on the show Saturday night. That was one of the things that's one of the reasons I tried online dating, because I was working full time and I was going to school full time. There was like one girl in the entire program, the computer maintenance program that I was in. And everyone that I worked with was either dating or was either married or insane. So it's like, well, there's not a lot of options here. So, but even then it was still like, I never would have been like, well, I'm gonna go to a bar and hang out, because I don't like drinking like that and hanging out in that social, you know what I'm saying? Which, on the show we talked about, then where are the places you might want to go? And we brought up things like Geek Fest and conventions and stuff, if that's what you're into. So, it talks about the fear of settling down. I've never felt that. Like, to me, it was always the pressure of, okay, well, now if I fuck up, it's not just me I fucked up, it's me and possibly someone else. Like that was the thing for me. That was the thing, like, oh, well, if I end up losing my job and, whatever, that affects me. Now, granted, she had her own job. My wife has always had her own job, and she has been, been able to, to hold her own. It's just, but it was still like, well, now she has to support me, or now that I'm pulling down the, you know what I'm saying? So that was the only thing. It was never like, I'm scared of getting into a relationship. That just never was me. But then he talks about how passion fades after 12 to 18 months. And then the companion love starts to grow in.
Which that's the good stuff. Do you know what I mean?
That's the best kind.
That's the good stuff. When you're just comfortable.
I'm going to wear my jogging pants and look like a piece of crap, and you're going to think I'm hot. That's what that is.
I'm going to wear this Golden Girls robe.
Yeah.
And it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
You're not going to care.
No, you're going to be like, I love you. You're pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I have never experienced that.
Really?
Ever.
Oh, man.
Nope, never gotten that far.
Well, it's awesome if you get there.
Yeah, that's what I hear. That's what I'm going for, but...
There you go.
Yeah.
Keep shooting for the gold, lady.
It's just making it that initial. That's the initials, the worst.
Yeah. It talks about how people are getting married later and later. And then it says... it talks about there's Molly the dog. Some people believe that humans are not wired monogamous, which we were just talking about. And I thought it was really interesting how it brought up the fact, and it does bring this up in Esther Perel's book as well, that the thing was the man had the wife with the kids, and then he had a mistress, and then with the advent of birth control and the women's movement, it was like, okay, well, we have to change this. This can't be the way. And it could have, and I never really thought about this until it was brought up. It could have gone two ways. We could have either went, well, now women can have someone on the side as well. But instead it was like, no, we're just going to drop it for everybody.
No,
So-
everyone has to suffer.
Everyone has to suffer. Yeah.
We can't let them have something cool.
And it talks about monogamish. And mostly older, and people who are older in their 40s and even in their 60s, have tried to be monogamish, and but it has to be built on a solid foundation. And once again, Esperl goes into her, really in depth on that in her book. So, and I had the question I had about this was looking at and correct, well, flat out my wife telling me this. One of the things I see there being a problem with online dating is it talks about people tend to be very quick to say, oh, well, there's something I don't like, and just kind of not even look into it. I'll start with, I'm going to ask this question. I'm going to shoot it at Chris first. Did you ever feel like Ray was a project?
Never. I'm the
Never?
project.
Okay. My wife has flat out told me I was the project. She's like,
She
I saw
told
potential.
me that when y'all started dating.
I no, I had huge glasses. I know I was not a good dresser. So,
Well, with that's different. That's like superficial stuff. Like
right. It's superficial
like,
stuff.
Glad
Yeah.
that you don't wear turtlenecks anymore. I'm very pro that. But I, for me, it was, I did not have a great upbringing. I never saw a good relationship. Marriage to me was like it was like, what's the point? It's just going to end in divorce. My parents have been divorced and married multiple times. And so it was just like, this is a shitty idea. But it was like, and still to me, like it took such a huge leap of faith, and it was so stressful for me to say those vows and to hope like hell that this was going to work out. And so I was the project, and
You were the project.
I was a project, and it was Ray just being like, no, this is happening. I'll sit around and wait, but we're doing this, so you get over yourself and I'll wait. So his work was being super patient with me. But I'm the project. I'm a work in progress all the time.
I love it.
He's pretty fantastic. He'll roll his eyes at that, but I mean, he's an amazing man. So
Yeah, he's all right.
I love me some Ray. Ray knows I love him. Ray knows how I feel.
Can't wait for him to go back and listen to this episode. He's gonna be like, "Oh God."
Yeah, it'll be like Saturday.
God.
God, what'd she say?
But anyway, so I was thinking about that the other day, and I was like, after reading the book, I was like, I wonder if anyone's thought about taking on a project, or if you are the project. Like I said, I was the project. I know I was the project. So
I feel like there's project, and then there's like the person that you just like, you gotta wait for a little bit. I think that there's
and I'm sure there's someone in that thing too. It's just like, yeah, you need to go back in the oven for a little while.
You're just a little undercooked. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So.
mature a bit.
We already talked about kind of our overall feelings on the book. We all seem to really like it. We're all really glad we read it and everything. So, with that said, does anyone have anything else they want to wrap up the book discussion part of the show with? All right. I think we're pretty good.
I think this book is a very adequate representation of what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so.
I would agree. So,
did I say adequate? I'm accurate. Good God, Lainey.
They both work.
Sorry.
I did have one or a couple things. When he talked about the shows that he did where he brought people on stage, I actually saw him do stand up, and he did that. And if I hadn't been in like the top balcony, I so would have run up there with my phone because I had.
Jen, wait!
Oh my God, that would have been awesome.
I know, it was great. And some of the stuff he read, it was like, yeah, that's pretty much accurate. But he does actually do that. So I got to see that. That was pretty great. The other thing I just remembered was the Japanese government subsidizing the dating.
Yes.
That was crazy to me. Like, I get that they want to make sure that, people are having babies and stuff, but wow, they spent a lot of money on that. And
genuinely worried.
Yeah.
About no more Japanese people. I can't
They are literally running out of Japanese people. That
They're
was
running
hilarious.
out of
Island
Japanese people.
Yeah, they're literally running out of yeah, and it's the same in Denmark too. There's like commercials now where they're like,
Oh yeah,
people into making their parents grandparents. Like,
yes, like, and they're a little more forward with it. They're like,
Yeah,
listen,
it's not-
hey,
yeah,
They're bumping uglies, guys. Come on now.
Yeah. I want to be a grandparent. Let's go. They're mine.
exactly, yeah. All right. So with that said, we're going to move into the part. Like I said, I don't want to keep everyone here too long, so hopefully we won't stress this out too far. But since we started reading the book at the right after Aziz won a Golden Globe for his show Master of None, the second season, a woman came out and I don't want to say accused because he said it happened, so we're not going to use accused. Came out and said that on a date the previous year, that he was how do I put this? Very forceful, and not to the point of like a rape. It was more so of a peer pressure. And she felt bad about it the next day. I have a question about this because I've never quite gotten the right answer. I know he contacted her afterwards.
She, I think, contacted him.
Okay, was that before? Was that after the date happened, or was that after all of this came out?
It was after the date happened. She texted him the next day.
Okay, that definitely puts this in a certain light, in my opinion. So
I thought he texted her and said it was nice meeting you last night.
Or maybe that was it.
Yeah, I thought that's what. Okay, so that's what I thought it was. So, okay, so with that said, is there anyone that wants to kind of throw their opinion, their thought out there on this?
I'll do it.
All right. If you don't want to go first, I will.
I don't mind.
Right,
so I have actually talked about this with a lot of different people in my life who have a lot of varying opinions on it. And that kind of seems to be the consensus, is that nobody really has a consensus. I know that I can say I have definitely been in a situation very much like the situation that this young lady was in as well. It is not a good feeling. Now, when I went through it in my mind, I did not feel quite as strongly about it as she did, but I definitely know what that situation is like. And for me, and for a lot of the people that I've kind of talked to and other women who have also been in situations like this, what it kind of comes down to is I think that this speaks to something. I feel like people are really up in arms about it because no one's really sure what category to put this in, because, you have to put everything into a category and no one can really decide if this is a big enough deal or if it's not. And I think a lot of men are kind of freaked out because this sounds like a normal date for them. The bottom line is that I think that the inability for women to feel like they can communicate comfortably with a man is a huge, huge problem that is not being addressed. I think that is the base level of a lot of the issues that we've been having, is that a lot of women do not feel safe communicating that with a guy. A lot of women get really uncomfortable when they have to basically tell somebody no. And that's not a personality thing, I don't think. I think that that's something that's ingrained in us. I'm a very strong, forceful person, and I have struggled with that, of like, how do I do this without making this person really upset or angry or making them feel bad, when it's not about that. I think that if we figure out how to better communicate with our partners and just each other in general, I think situations like this would be a lot fewer and farther between. So while I don't think that his actions were right, and I don't want to downplay her experience, because her experience was her experience, it wasn't mine. For me, I didn't feel the outrage towards what happened so much as I felt outrage towards the way that people reacted to it. I kind of felt like people use this as a way to bamboozle everyone else against not really. It felt like a way to kind of come after a movement that I think is incredibly important, that needs to be happening. And instead it kind of gave people a way to be like, well, I mean, if you're going to talk about it, it gave a lot of people a way to discredit something that's really, really big that needs to happen, basically. So that's kind of where I'm at.
You definitely went with the more philosophical route of it. I was more so of the more concrete part of it. I'm going to lay this out there as a married white male, whereas you were coming from this as someone who's actually had this happen. So, take my opinion with a grain of salt. This should have never been part of the Me Too movement. Me Too was more so really, really bad people using their power over subordinates in their jobs and basically lording their power over there. This was a date situation. This is not what has happened. The reason why I say this should have never came out with the Me Too movement is because, kind of like what you were saying, and I guess maybe putting it a little more concrete, I think this actually hurts the Me Too movement. The Me Too movement needs to keep growing, and it needs to keep burning, and it needs to, we're still going through politicians and people in the entertainment industry, and this needs to get down to the point that, the average Joe who might be working at a Burger King as a manager can't lord over, one of his subordinates and try to peer pressure, someone into having sex. I think that needs to keep going. That needs to keep moving forward. This needs to be its own thing. This needs to be well defined. And like you said, it is something that needs to be addressed. I think, like I said, I think it hurts the Me Too movement, like you said, because people are like, whoa, well, I thought it was this and, this, that, and the other. And they, unfortunately, I am afraid this may become one of those things that Gamergate was, because Gamergate started out as, this thing, this guy was, posting all this stuff about his ex-girlfriend, and it was the outrage over that. And then it quickly was turned into some kind of a debate over the ethics in video game journalism. It's like, those are totally different things.
Totally different.
You should not be talked about in the same thing, but they were talked about the exact same way. And then you had people trying to have a conversation about it, but not even talking about the same thing. And I'm afraid this is something that could happen with this. So like I said, I'm not downplaying it. I'm not saying we don't need to talk about it. I think it needs to be its own thing, though. One other little thing, and I'm just going to throw this out there. The reason why I said it was kind of the timing, I think, was
unfortunate.
If they had a conversation after the event happened, to me, this should have remained a something that they dealt with. And like I said, it still needs to be talked about, but it didn't seem like she came out to be to speak out about something that needs to be spoken out about. It almost seemed more like a vengeance type of thing, because it was like, she even said, I was really mad watching him walk across the stage and receive the thing. And unfortunately, like I said, because this is kind of winding up in the whole Me Too thing. Yeah, he made a mistake. He did, and the biggest problem is he wrote this book. He got so much right in this book, and then to go do this, it's like, dude, what were you thinking? But anyway, I think it's unfortunate that his career may be over because of this. Who knows? I mean, people have come back from worse.
I don't think it will be. I really don't think it will be. I feel like.
I hope it isn't. I hope his career isn't over after this, but it's sad that it could be because of this. And like I said, I don't want to downplay what happened. I just think it's unfortunate of the way things unfolded. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, I think there wasn't a lot of responsibility in publishing that story to begin with. Because you're right, it was a vengeance thing, because she was angry. He won that award while wearing a Time's Up pin. So he was kind of, she's mad he's draping himself in the movement. So this online publication, also draping itself in the movement, publishes this story that really isn't, I mean, I guess it's factual, but it is one-sided. So yeah, it's like, it's everybody trying to be part of a movement and like just really muddling muddying the waters, I guess.
We can't figure out where this lies. That's the thing. It's like everyone knows that it's wrong, but we have to figure out, like, are we going after everything? Are we focusing on the big stuff? Are we focusing on all of where are we, basically? Instead of like starting with all this bigger stuff and like chiseling our way down to the little idiosyncrasies that make up so much of just our day-to-day interactions with each other and just what our society is in general. I get really frustrated. Sorry.
And see, like I said, I think it should be its own separate thing. And then I even thought so much as I'm like, well, not saying that it doesn't need to be talked about, but is it something that needs to be tabled? So it's like, because you know how we are here in America, we can only focus on one freaking thing at a time. And it's like, okay, well, we're going to focus on this. And now the whole Me Too movement maybe lose some of its steam. And it's just like, do we try to work through that first and then come, round back around to this? But it's like, this is an important thing we need to talk about too.
Mm-hmm.
It sucks.
Hopefully, like after reading this book, this seems like someone who might be able to handle the nuances from a public platform. So it might, I don't think it's going to happen immediately, but like, I don't think his career will be over, but it's definitely going to change direction.
Yeah.
He's
like, I don't know if
to
Netflix will have another,
Master of None. I don't know. I know that as a person, he's been dealing with a lot of personal. I don't know. I would just be really interested to hear more from him as to what he had to say. But I will say this, like, as far as the whole Time's Up and the Me Too thing goes, a lot of that is based on power dynamics. And this is still related to power dynamics. I don't think it's on the same scale. I think it's different sides of a spectrum. This is more like nuanced, but like it's still power dynamics for sure. So, but I agree with you, Gene. It's like, we don't know, like, what do? Do we focus on the whole thing right now? Are we looking at this? Are we looking at, it's misdirection. It's Siegfried and Roy. Nobody really knows what they're doing right now.
Chris, did you have anything you wanted to add to this? Or are you like, nope, not touching this with a 10-foot pole?
Nope. Bye.
Yeah, no, because Ray and I have had this conversation, and I know for me, I had a battle axe of a mother who had a very rough adult life. She used to get into fistfights with men. So for me, I grew up with a woman who was like, take no shit from the very beginning of and I've never taken anything from anybody. If I had a man, I was at a writing conference, and we were at the after party. He was drinking or whatever. I was goofing around. He felt like it was hilarious to reach out and grab my boob. He thought that was funny. And the look on his face, he was like, "Mah." And so I slapped him in the face and told him to fuck off and to never touch me again. And that's it was like, no. And I slapped him as hard as I could and told him to not do that. And that's my reaction to things like that. It's like, and it's not that I really try, because I sound like I'm victim blaming, and I try not to, but I always grew up with, like, if you don't like it, immediately stop it. Like, just say no, don't do that. No, thank you. And be forceful about it until you get your way. And so I feel bad for women who don't feel like they can do that, who feel like it's somehow sort of their fault that this guy feels like he can do that to them instead of teaching him a lesson. And I felt bad for the woman who that happened to, and I'd probably be pissed off too. I'd be like, the fucking asshole did that to me, and look at him getting an award, and I'm sitting here with all this baggage. And no, if I'm going to go down, he's going to go down with me. I get that. It felt like it was really badly reported, like Manny said, and it just got away from the point.
That article's awful.
We need to talk about this. And with Ray, I know for him, the things that he said is he's an affectionate guy. He's a hugger. Y'all who have met him know that.
Yeah, he is.
And he likes to, he's a bit of a flirt and things like that. He's worried, and he's so worried that this is going to go to such an extreme that if he looks at a woman that she is taking his look or holding the door open for her or whatever as a harassment, and he's going to get in shit for it. That's how he feels about where this is going. He is so scared that just because he's trying to be nice, it's going to be misconstrued as him trying to power over a woman. And I can't tell him different. I've been trying to, and he doesn't almost believe me when I say, no. People can tell the difference, I hope, between somebody being nice and somebody using their power over somebody. And
I think that speaks to Ray, though, the fact that he is so concerned with the people around him in general feeling comfortable and safe.
Yeah.
It
doesn't. I've been trying to tell him, like, your sense, that's you. I don't think that's the movement is trying to tell those in power, you can't do this anymore. You can't treat me that way anymore. It's not allowed anymore. And hopefully what comes out of this is we reach an equilibrium where everybody is, and maybe we do have to have contracts before somebody has sex. Maybe that is going to be the social norm. It's like, listen, you sign this paper, you are agreeing to all of this. I sign it, we're agreeing all to this, and we're good to go. Maybe that's where it's got to go.
But that's the thing, is people don't.
Pardon?
Sorry, Jen, say it again.
Said talk about a mood killer. Geez, like, hey, wait.
Well, but that's the thing. Like, people don't know how to talk before they have sex. Like, that's the thing, is everybody goes to the, well, do I have to ask to kiss you? Well, kinda. Yeah. Like, there's such a thing as consent it's not the absence of a, consent's not the absence of a no. It's an enthusiastic and consistent yes. And I don't understand why that's such a hard thing for people to understand. Mm-hmm. You just fucking talk to the person that you're about to sleep with. Yeah. Just fucking, even if it's a fucking one night stand, say, I'm not okay with this. I'm not okay with this. I don't like this. I don't like this. These are the things that I'm into, blah, blah, blah. I guarantee your sex will be so much better. Just stop. It drives me crazy that people cannot fucking, it just, oh God.
Molly, you're not asking consent.
Sorry. She's in my long-term relationship. I don't know. She just wants to be in on the conversation. She has opinions.
As always. Did you have anything else you wanted to add to it, Jen?
No, I pretty much agree with what everybody said. I didn't actually read the original article. I read secondhand interpretations of it, but it
might be best.
Seems like, from what I've, heard and read, that he was probably in the wrong, but I don't know that it's the same as everything everybody else is going through. I will say I think the movement is probably is a little broader. To me, the movement is, women in general have felt like they can't speak up about certain things and they have to just deal with it, whether it's someone in power or just a casual date. So I think it's kind of a spectrum, and this falls somewhere on that spectrum, but I don't think it's a completely separate thing either. Because I feel like, for a long time, women have just put up with getting catcalled and getting their butt slapped and getting, like inappropriate things said and done to them. And to the point where it's even been rape, and now it's like enough is enough. We're not dealing with it anymore. So I think there needs to be a societal shift in all of that, to where men, know, hey, you can't force yourself on a girl. You have to be aware of this and this, and don't blame the girl, for getting raped or whatever. If that happens, that's a whole other discussion, but yeah.
And teaching our boys, well, and our girls too, that consent is very important. And I know with Quinn, he's a very affectionate kid, and for him, he's learning, like, everybody likes a hug and that's okay. And with Logan, she's very, for the day a man tries to cross her. So it's,
I love her.
I love her too. Teaching them teaching them from a very early age consent, teaching them, this is mine and don't touch it if I don't want you to.
Respect of people's boundaries. Just respect of people's boundaries and the way they react. Like,
don't come in my bubble. I don't want you in my bubble. I'll let you know if I want you in my bubble. And once you're in, we'll have some fun. But just trying to teach them, especially boys, like, it's okay to get shot, to be shot down. It's okay. It's not a shot to your manhood. It's not, just because she, kisses you or whatever is not an invitation for you to think she's going to give it all to you or whatever, or that you're entitled to it. That's the other thing too, is getting over the entitlement factor.
That's right. These boys are no one is entitled to anything.
No.
I have a friend with a 3-year-old boy, and he's always coming up to her, like trying to kiss her, blah, blah, blah. And she's trying to teach him, like, you can't just kiss, people. You have to ask them. Because, even though he's her mom, or he's the mom, like, she's trying to set those boundaries now so that he doesn't just think he can do it his whole life, which I think is a really good thing.
It is important. It's cute.
Sorry.
The part of it's just like, oh, but he's taller. Because Ray was standing in line with Quinn when he was in JK, and he had this friend. She was the same age as him, and they just were kind of standing beside each other, and they kind of shrugged his shoulders, and all of a sudden he's like, they kissed each other, and it was like, whoa, 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 okay, you are going to stand over here, and you are standing over there, and they were 4 years old, but it's just like, no. You were too young. But they both kind of looked at each other and were like, well, we're standing here.
Why not? It's a thing to do.
Yeah. It's like, no.
I love it.
The only other thing I want to add to this, and I'm just basically kind of going along with what Ray was thinking. I wasn't quite thinking to that level about holding a door. That's a little further than what I was thinking. But like, once again, thank God I'm not in the dating scene now, because I've always been very, like I said, I've always been kind of shy, and I'm an introvert. But yeah, I would and today I would totally be like, yeah, listen, I don't play games. I am very interested in you. I like you. I'd like to see where this goes. But you are going to make all of the first moves from here on out, because no,
you could be like the French guy that's just like fancy a fuck.
No, yeah. I would be like, hey, listen, if this is going to happen, you kind of got to make the first move, because I'm not going to even remotely put myself in a position where this could happen. And a little more background. I'm horrible at picking up on signals, so that's another reason why I would put myself in this thing. And I mean, I know there's a difference between some signals and others, but to give you a very extreme version of what I'm talking about, when I was working at Hastings and at SFA, there was a young lady there that at the time when I met her, she was dating someone, and unbeknownst to me, they had broken up. But she literally would come over and ask me, when are you going to ask me out? And I thought she was just, she's just being funny. And it literally took a female assistant manager to go, no, seriously, she wants to know when you were going to go out. But I was that stupid. So like I said, that's where I'm coming from, ladies. So just,
But I'll say this, just having that conversation with that person before you enter into anything. Number one, it can be really cute and really dirty and really fun. And then you already know what the other one is expecting, and you already know the boundaries of that other person, and it just sets you up for success every single time. So, and I don't think it's fair either to expect your partner to rely on like cues unless they are like clear, like actual communication.
Yeah,
I just don't.
That was the other thing I think people are having a hard time with was with a part of the nonverbal cues. I think
I've done that. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, and it's such a vague thing that it's like, what does that mean? Nonverbal cues. What is? Because some are very clear. Like that's a shove. It's a slap. It's a finger in the face. Like,
yeah,
those are very clear. But then, did it mean subtle cues? Like, was she like rolling her eyes, or was she like just not smiling, or not in? Like, how does it work? That's such a vague, broad statement.
I don't think it's fair to either person in that situation to do stuff like just again, just fucking talk to each other, guys. Like, it's so much better. Just talk to each other. Stop being so stupid.
We'll just wear signs around our neck all the time.
Just use your words. That's what everybody tells everybody to do in elementary school. Use your words.
Your words. Let's just go back to elementary. We'll be all right.
It made me feel blank when you blank. I don't like it when you blank. Please stop.
And that's
Nice. There
now,
you go.
I say that, and it's easier said than done. It's really
It
hard.
always
when you're
is.
and when you're conditioned like that. But again, open communication with your partners, guys. It's great. Just fucking
There you
do
go.
it. And can I add one more thing, Eugene?
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
you're one of these assholes, I don't care. When you're one of these assholes that's listening right now, whose attitude to all of this is, well, I mean, am I ever going to be allowed to say anything to a woman? Then no, you are not allowed to say anything, because if you cannot figure out what the difference is between common human decency and being a fucking asshole, then you are not allowed to speak to anyone ever. And that's it.
And there you go.
I agree.
That's it for our discussion, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, we're running a little late, and I know everyone has to work and everything tomorrow. So
Yeah.
Our next book that we're reading is Pleasure Unbound by Larissa. Is it Ione? Ione.
I'm really excited about this
I'm
one.
about halfway through it. It's we'll get to that eventually. So if you'd like to read the next book with us for February, it is Pleasure Unbound by Larissa Ione. It is the first in a series. So,
but
that being said,
disclaimer: it is smut. Like, it is a erotica novel.
Oh, it is very graphic.
Dirty.
If you don't want to read that, then just be forward. Yes. It is an erotica novel. Yeah.
But the whole point of this book club was to expand our horizons and read things that we wouldn't normally pick up. So definitely fall in. It's got werewolves and demons and everything else. So it's not like it's not just a quote unquote bodice ripper. This actually has some sci-fi, fantasy
it's got
stuff.
Some paranormal. That's why I like reading. It's because it's got that stuff.
Yeah, sure you do.
Hey.
No judgment at all. What else have you been reading? Anyone been reading anything of interest as well?
I'm an editor for work, but I've been reading A World Without Whom by Emmy J. Favila, and she's the copy chief for BuzzFeed. Mm-hmm. And so it's all about how language is evolving and what grammatical rules we need to follow in the internet age. So it's been fun. I took it on vacation and I kind of stopped when I got back, but I'm going to pick it up.
That sounds interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. I'm still doing inventory, so I went back and reread Mating in Captivity with Esther Perel. Man, that is such a good book. I also went ahead and read Attached by Amir Levine and Rachel Heller. Kind of goes hand in hand with that. And then I've just been reading a bunch of my other favorite books. Run Program by Scott Meyer, same guy who did the Magic 2.0 series. Demon, Freedom TM, Kill Decision, all by Daniel Suarez. I keep forgetting that he is one of my favorite authors. I need to go look to make sure he hasn't written another book that has slipped under the radar for me. So, anything else anyone wanted to throw out there real quick?
I'm trying to read a book called.
All right. As always, you can find the show on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also find us at epicallygeeky.com. We do record the show live on a Wednesday night. Can y'all not hear me?
You can't hear us?
Can you not hear us?
No, I couldn't hear you.
Lady was talking.
She was talking.
Really cut her off.
I go, actually, I'm reading this. And you're like, okay, well. And I'm like, oh.
Well, that's going to suck because now I'm going to be talking over you when you were talking. I'm sorry, just to make sure that it records correctly. What were you saying, Lainey?
Speaking of men cutting women off.
God, Eugene. I'm kidding. So I'm in the process of reading a book that a friend of mine from work lent me. It's called In a Dark, Dark Wood. It's a novel by Ruth Ware. I'm kind of excited about it because it's kind of spooky. And she said that when she read it, she immediately thought of me. So I'm trying to find time here and there to read it. I have a tendency to fall asleep while I'm reading it, which is probably not good. I don't think that says anything about the quality of the book. I'm sure it's great. I'm just tired a lot. So, But yeah, I'll let you guys know how it is. I'm pretty excited about it.
Awesome. Is there anything else anyone wants to throw out there before I start talking?
Wait, he cuts you guys off.
I started listening to Happiness for People Who Can't Stand Positive Thinking, so we'll see how that goes.
That sounds interesting.
It's about stoicism, I'm learning. So yeah. We'll see how that is, because I'm that person. I can't stand positive thinking, but I need to be less pessimistic as well. So.
I'm obnoxiously optimistic, so.
Those Ray, drives me nuts.
Once again, something you wouldn't have necessarily been looking for, but you found it, right, Chris? There you go.
Like, I guess.
Yeah, whatever. Like I was saying, you can find it. You can find the show at epicallygeeky.com. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at epicallygeeky. If you haven't already, please give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Music. If you have a suggestion for a book for us to read, definitely let us know that as well. That would actually be very highly appreciated. Even though I think we've at least got our next 6 books planned out, and we've got a ton of stuff that we want to read. So it's going to be interesting. So, where can we find you online, Lainey?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at It's a Lainey Bird. I promise I will post things on Instagram as they come. Again, I don't do anything interesting right now. Nobody wants to see me at work. And then hopefully another episode of Epic Rhythm and Brews will be coming your way very, very soon. We're just trying to coordinate some schedules over there. So,
gotcha. Very cool. Jennifer, where can we find you online?
Instagram and Twitter at Het's Gonna Be Me.
We can find Chris at epicallygeeky.com.
Yep.
She's like, yep, that's it.
And that's it. That's the way she likes it. Mandy, where can we find you online? Or can we?
You can. My Twitter handle is Mandy Jo Shelton. That's Joe, no E.
Very cool. And as always, you can find me online in my individual wacky adventure at Optimus Gene on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. For everyone on the site, have a good night.